So guys, for you to get your points today, we are going to do 4 of the homework problems. What I'll do when you're done is I'll check that you have some boxes filled in with what I say, not what I write. So make sure you're listening, because at some point while doing number 21, I will tell you what to write in this box, and it's writing that's going to get you the points for today. So make sure you're watching and listening. We'll do them one at a time, so you don't need to write all these out right now. We'll just write out number 21, and then we'll do number 21, write out 24, do 24, blah, blah, blah. You get it. All right, so first one up, number 21, go ahead and write it down. I don't know why it's giving me this box here. I'm trying to get rid of it while you're writing it down. All right, so we are doing some work with complex numbers. And one thing I want you to write below the box is that I is an imaginary number, and it was created historically so that mathematicians could root negatives, because technically when I tell you that the square root, if I ask you for the square root of, say, -9, I'm asking you for what times itself equals -9, and there isn't one. So what we do is, to get around that issue, they created imaginary numbers. Pretty clever, but anyway, that's why they call them imaginary. You really can't take the square root of a negative number. So on number 21, it's subtraction. What I want you to write in the box for number 21 is distribute. So for 21, in that box right there, I want you to write distribute, and we're going to distribute the negative in. The first set of parentheses we leave untouched. Really, you can think of there being a little invisible 1 in front of it that we multiply in, but it doesn't change it. On this one, though, there's a little invisible -1, and when we multiply that in, it will change the signs of this second term, because a negative times a negative is a positive. And now we play a game of combining like terms. I would like you to circle the 12 and circle the 2 with the sign in front of it. So this is really 12 minus 2, or 10. And then we have positive 5i plus 1i, which makes 6i. Not I squared. 5 apples plus 1 apple is 6 apples. We don't square it. So my final answer to this is 10 plus 6i. And this is like combining like terms. It's like in Algebra 1 if you had 10 plus 6x. You cannot put those together because the 10 doesn't have any x's with it. So resist the urge to call that 16i. It's 10 ones plus 16 i's, and those are not like terms, so they don't go together. So number 21 is done. So when you're doing that section in your homework, if it's addition, you can just add them up. But make sure, like I told you to write in this box, when it's a subtraction, distribute that negative in. Now with number 24 here, you'll see there is no plus, there is no minus, which means this is multiplying. And this would be multiplying two binomials or two terms. And in order to do that, what I'd like you to write in box number 2, so I'll let you get number 24 written down, and I'll tell you what I want you to write in this box. And again, I'm giving you the points today for listening and writing what I tell you in the box next to the problem. So now that you have number 24 written down, what I'd like you to write in that box is FOIL. So when it's multiplication, you need to FOIL. When it's subtraction, we distributed it. But now in here, again, like I said, there's no operation in here, which means multiply. So you're going to start this by FOILing. You will multiply first term times first term. -6 times 1 is a -6. Then you'll go to the outside and you'll do a -6 times a positive 3i, which is a positive 18i. Then you'll do a -5i times a +1 on the inside for -5i. And lastly, you'll do a -5i plus 3i for -15i squared. Next, right here, what I'd like you to write right to the right of that box up there is that I squared is equal to -1. And here's why over here by number 21. I told you I is equal to the square root of -1, so I squared would undo the root. So every time you see I squared, we'll replace it with a -1. So I have -6 plus 18i minus 5i minus 15 times a -1. So I have -6 plus 18i minus 5i, and a negative times a negative makes a positive. Now I'll combine my like terms and be done. I have -6 going up 15 for 9 ones. I have 18 i's, take away 5 i's, which brings me to 13 i's. And again, those don't go together because they're not like terms. So the first one was subtraction. I told you to write distribute in the box. The second one was multiplication. You should write FOIL in that box. So in that whole first section, you just are trying to decide if it's add or subtract, in which case we just combine our like terms, or if it's multiplication, in which case you need to FOIL it. So moving on to number 50, I'll give you a minute to write the problem down. Then we'll start doing it, and at some point I'll tell you what to write in that box. The most important thing with these is to notice what the operation is. The first one was subtraction. I distributed it in. The second one was multiplication, so I FOILed. This one's addition. So with addition, you can just remove the parentheses. Even while you're writing the problem down. So nothing fancy to do with addition, but again, had that been a minus, you would have distributed it in. Now, right in here, when we have the square root of a -9, what we need to do is pull the I out, which is the negative part of the square root of -1, leaving root 9 in there. Same right here, this negative is the square root of a -1. We'll pull an I out, root 49. And I didn't FOIL those because it was addition. Then I know what the square root of 9 is. And I know what the square root of 49 is. It's 7. Now I'm ready to combine my like terms. I have 4 ones plus 6 ones for 10 of them. Then I have a positive 3 going down 7, so I'll be -4 of those. And I'm done with that one. So what do I want you to write in this box? I want you to write that the square root of a -25, when you see square roots of negatives, you pop an I out and you take the root of what's left. If you know it, great. If you don't, you don't. Like if that had been the square root of a -13, you would have just said I, root 13. But root 25 I know, so I'd call that 5i. And again, what you get points for is going to be what you write in that box. All right, last one. This has got some distributing that I need to do before I start. So let's do that. -5 times 1 is a -5. -5 times 2i will be a -10i. I just distributed the -5 in. Now I'll distribute this in. 3 times 3 is 9. I have the I hanging around, and I have the 3i times the 4i, and it's a positive times a negative, so I'll balance out to be negative. I will have 12i squared. Remember what I told you? Every time you see the I squared, you will replace it with a -1. I'll do a little rewrite, so I have -5 minus 10i plus 9i minus 12 times a -1. Every time you see the I squared, you'll replace it with a -1. Then I have the -5 minus 10i plus a 9i. And these two negatives right here will give me a positive or a plus 12. Now I'm ready to combine my like terms. I'm down 5, going up 12, giving me a positive 7. I'm down 10i, going up 9, which will leave me 1 in the hole, or minus 1i, or just minus I. Put that in a box. So there's 10 points given today, or each day this week, for participation points in academic lab. For 5 of them, you need to have written what I've asked you to write in the boxes, and I didn't tell you what to write in the last box yet, and all I want you to do is put a little smiley face in there. That'll do it. To get the other 5 points, I just need you to work on your assignment until it's done or until it's 2:08. Have a good one, guys. Peace out.